All right, so we have two news stories that have recently come out that don't bode well for a lot of these auto manufacturers. So, what recently has come out is that Jeep is going to be pulling back on some of their production. What they're going to do is they're going to be cutting some shifts. And this is really on the heels of us seeing their days of inventory stack up. We're seeing that their dealers have been begging for the manufacturer to help them sell a lot of vehicles. If you go to any Jeep, Dodge, Ram lot anywhere around you right now, you're seeing Grand Cherokee stack up. You're seeing Dodge Chargers, Challengers everywhere. And even worse, you're seeing these Ram 1500s stacking up everywhere on these lots. And we knew it would only be a matter of time before we start seeing some of these production cuts. And it's not just hitting Stellantis right now. We have Ford that has come out and said that they have stopped shipments on their Ford F-150 Lightnings. This is also something that we could have seen coming and probably is happening now a lot later than it should have, because you can go to these Ford lots and you see Lightnings, you see Mach-E's everywhere. A lot of these vehicles that Ford can't sell. And we've also seen reports that sitting around Detroit, there are lots of F 150s, not the Lightnings, but F 150s sitting around stacking up. This is very worrisome for the big three in particular, because GM too. There's no secret that they fall into this basket of, okay, these trucks, they were way too expensive, these vehicles way too expensive, and people can't pay to buy these things anymore. We're at a time period where the monthly payments on these trucks are the highest that it's ever been, and going into economy that, okay, it looks like it's great from the stock market side, but we know here on Main Street things are getting tighter for people. We're in tax time right now on the used car side, which used cars are getting a little bit of a bump. But what we're seeing from a lot of dealers is that it's not as good. The spring selling season is not as good as what was once thought it was going to be. And that's going to hit a lot of these dealers. And then when the dealers get hit, then the manufacturers getting hit. And that's what we're seeing from these production cuts right now. Oh, yeah, it seemed all great and everything over the last year, where we were seeing this, that dealers were crying and saying that they couldn't sell anything, but the manufacturers were still posting record profits. But all that now is going to change, because what a lot of people don't really know is that when these trucks are bought off these dealer lots, that's not when the sale happens for these manufacturers. When the sale happens for the manufacturers is when they deliver the vehicle to the dealership. So we went through this time where these dealerships, they still needed to load up, they needed to stack up their vehicles because production was behind, and now they're cut up, they're caught up with the levels of inventory that they need to have. And now they're starting to turn down allocations. The allocations is just the process of the ordering system through where these manufacturers ship these vehicles to these dealers. Once they traditionally, once these dealers are able to sell vehicles, then they earn more vehicles to put on their lot. But because there was such a backup in production over the last 3 years, manufacturers were just able to continuously send these dealers these vehicles. That's why they were putting up these record profits. Their margins were very high, and they can continue the stream of vehicles to these dealerships. But now, because the dealerships are having such a hard time selling, they're starting to get loaded up, and now they're turning down these allocations. That's where it starts to hit these manufacturers, and that's why we're seeing these problems start to come out right now, while you're seeing production cuts happen. And in particular, in Ford's case, production cuts and shipment halts that were supposed to happen way a long time ago, because we already had these Ford dealers that were crying and say, we cannot sell these EVs, please stop sending them to us. And it's telling too that it's a lot of these 2024s, because we still have 2022s and 2023 Ford F-150 Lightnings that are sitting on these dealer lots. And you know that they can't push out these 2024s when they still have 2-year-old trucks sitting on these lots that they can't sell. And on top of this, too, is you have these manufacturers that are sending out these vehicles, and the MSRPs keep going up and up and up and up. And that's going to it really just it hurts these dealerships more and more as these manufacturers keep raising the MSRPs into this market where they're having a hard time selling them. So yesterday I went to a franchise, and I was able to interview their GM. And I won't say what the brand was, but that video will come out on our main channel hopefully in the next few weeks or so. But what he was telling me is that they had double the amount of inventory that they had just 3 months ago. And this is coming from manufacturers just putting vehicles anywhere that they can stack them. And this just happened to be a dealership that they sell under MSRP. So they're actually able to move a lot of vehicles. Even in this environment, they're still able to sell some. But because they had space, the manufacturer just started slamming these vehicles down their throat. And what this GM told to me is that, okay, what's got to happen to help the situation out is that, okay, the manufacturer has to step up and they have to start helping these dealers sell these vehicles. And there's a couple ways that these manufacturers can do that. One is incentives, these rebates. They can give them to these dealerships. Dealerships can cut prices, and this is money that comes right off of the price for these dealers to be able to sell them to customers that maybe couldn't get into these vehicles to begin with. The other thing is special interest rates, and we know that a lot of is they don't really shop the price of the vehicle. What they're going to shop is they're going to shop their monthly payments. And whenever they're shopping for these monthly payments, one thing that can really help get that monthly payment down is interest rates. We know that the Fed's not going to help the car market anytime soon. Their motto has been higher for longer, and that's what they have been saying, and that's what they're going to do. So there's not going to be any big movement down in the interest rates anytime soon. So there's going to be no help for dealers, for manufacturers from the Fed. And so what really has to happen is they have to be able to get prices down. And one frustration that this GM said to me is that, okay, they are only allowed to market a vehicle to invoice, and they can't market it any lower than that. And there's vehicles on this franchise dealer's lot that they need to get rid of, and the way that they would want to get rid of them, and it's frustrating for him, is that he would want to sell it for less than invoice, but he can't market that. So what he has to do is he has to put something on Facebook. He has to put something on whatever online mediums that he uses to sell and say, okay, this is a manager special. We're doing a blowout sale, but he can't actually put the price that he wants to sell the vehicle for on the internet because it's against the policies of the manufacturer that he's working for. This is a big frustration, and a lot of dealers that want to move vehicles right now and need to get vehicles off of their floor plans. If they can't market them for what they actually want to sell them for, if it's against the rules for them to market them for what they want to sell it for, it's going to be very, very hard for them to actually move these vehicles when they're trying to get them to consumers, and they have to get them off their floor plans because they just end up paying for it month after month after month after month. And this is why you're seeing right now the production cuts, the stopping of them shipping out vehicles, because if these dealers can't move them, then they get loaded up. Once they get loaded up, they have to turn down allocation. When they turn down allocation, that's when it's hitting your manufacturers, and that's what we're seeing right now. So I want to go to the chat. If you have any questions, throw them in there. We'll start answering as many as we can. Swamp says, how long should I wait to buy a full-size Toyota Tundra from the years 2014, 2018? So right now we're seeing that the used car prices are getting bumped a little bit. Even in this range, you're going to see a little bit of an uptrend in prices just because tax checks are here, tax refunds. There's a little bit more money. Now, we have seen from a lot of dealers that this is a weaker tax season than they were anticipating. So what that means is that the tax time bump that we usually get is probably going to be much shorter than it usually is. And so you're going to be able to see some pressure on these dealers a lot sooner than you regularly would. So the way tax time usually works is we get this big bump. We've already seen it right at the end of February. It goes throughout March where there's more buying pressure. There's dealers that sell a few more vehicles, and then they have to go to the auction. They'll pay more for these vehicles at auction at this time. And that will last up until probably the middle of April, end of April. And then once all the money's gone from tax refunds, then dealers will still have this window of time where they're trying to reload their inventory, and so prices will stay high on the wholesale level a little after when tax refunds, the money that's in the system, actually leaves the system. And then what you have is you have this seller's game pretty much after that. I like to use the housing market as a good example of this. If you have a seller that's selling a house, even though prices are going down in the housing market, what they'll do is they'll list it for a price, and then they have to sit on that house for a little bit because they have to be told by the market that housing prices are coming down, or the house that they're trying to sell is not worth what they're trying to sell for. So they'll wait a month, and then they'll lower it by 10%. And then the market will tell them again, okay, no one's buying this house for even 10% less than what you thought it was worth. So then they lowered another 10%. And after that period, we're down 20% ish. And you have 2 months have gone by. But still, they might find that in that range, people still aren't buying. Car dealers have to do the same thing when the money dries up and they stop selling these cars. They'll lower their prices by a little bit. They'll wait. They'll lower prices by a little bit more. They'll wait. Now, the thing that's different about home sellers and dealers is that dealers are usually more in a time crunch because they have these floor plans. For those of you who don't know, most dealers, they use what's called a floor plan. It's like a credit card. They'll swipe to buy their inventory. So as their cars sit on their lots for longer, more interest picks up. So this gives a little bit more selling pressure. This is also why car dealers, for the most part, can seem a lot more predatory, maybe than under other industries, and that's because the way that the industry's set up, it's set up on a bunch of leverage, a bunch of debt, and they're always behind the eight ball. They always owe somebody some money. This is money they don't have in the first place, so they have to turn their inventory. So that's why they want you to get in that car and buy it right now, because they have somebody that they owe money to. But as all of this goes by, and then the dealers finally figure out, okay, what people will pay for it, usually the middle of the summer, and then it's just we're back to a downtrend from there till the end of the year. So if you're looking for a vehicle like they were, I would recommend, as long as you can wait, but definitely in the next 2 to 3 months, I don't want you to be a buyer. Prices are going to be elevated for at least the next 2 months. So wait them out. You can wait quite a bit, and then you'll be able to you go in and hopefully find some deals. I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know if there's any kind of thing that's coming up on the horizon. I don't know what the Fed's going to do. I would assume that they would stay pretty steady throughout the course of the year. I don't see them lowering rates quickly. I don't see new car dealers just slashing prices, because a lot of times their hands are tied by the manufacturers as far as what they can do. So I just think it's just a slow grind throughout the end of the year, and I would just tell you to wait as long as possible to buy a vehicle. All right, so we've got a question here, Brandon. How many cars are on your lot? Well, we were able to buy more than I expected last week. I think we got either like 12 or 15 last week. And what's interesting is that it seems like a lot of these other dealers are not selling at the frequency that we're selling out, which is what surprised me last week, that we were actually able to buy some cars. But that means that we were able to put some more on our lot. We did a video recently to show it a empty lot, because over the last weekend, we were down to just our front row. So we had literally 12 cars for sale. And as a lot of you know, when we started tax season, I think we had maybe 70 for sale almost. So I can't remember what Nate told me. Nate's my sales manager, but I believe in 7 days, we sold almost like 60 cars. It was a week and a half, 2 weeks, like 62 cars, 64 cars. It was insane. We were running everywhere. I'm sure you've seen some of the videos of me putting on tags, cutting my hands open while I'm getting stickers off. The just it was chaos. And now, because we bought those few other cars, I think we got maybe 20 for sale at this point, which is I'm happy with, because I wasn't expecting to have any cars left at this point. Alex went to the auction yesterday, bought three more. So we got a couple more coming in. He's at auction today, and we'll go to another auction tomorrow. And as long as prices are not absolutely insane, then we'll try to pick up a few. Now, what we have done is we've pulled our limit back of what we're willing to pay for a vehicle right now, because once the tax money dries up, once these um, once all the buyers are pretty much gone out of the system for my range of cars, it gets really 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 slow for us here. And I don't want to be stuck with a lot of cars, and we've been stuck before, and we're not going to do it this year. And we're to the point now where, okay, we just got a Buick fixed, and we spent like $2,000 fixing it. We've got $4,000 in this car, but it's a $2,500 car, so we're going to sell it for $2,500. We're going to end up losing $1,500 on it, because well, I mean, we could mark it up to $3,500, $4,000, and maybe there's a person out there who would buy it, but we don't want to wait on it. So anything that we have like that, if it's a $2,500, $3,000 car, we're not trying to get a little bit more out of it just because there's more money in the system. We know that it gets out of here very very quickly, so we go ahead and market stuff for what we think we can sell it for, and we can sell it for tomorrow, because I want to sell everything that we have out there tomorrow before the end of the week. Because when I tell you it's slow, when tax money gets out of here, it gets really, really slow. And I can tell you from my customers' standpoint, it makes sense, because my customers who buy cars that are $5,000 or under, they wait for this time period to be able to buy a vehicle. So there's all this anticipation leading up to tax time. They're saving their money. They're not going to buy anything. Even if they have money to buy a car, they're waiting for this cushion that they're getting from the tax refunds, and then they'll come and buy a car. So anyone in my realm of customer that wanted a car, that wants a car, that needs a car, they buy it in this window when they have the money. And then there's this dry spell, because anyone who's left over, there's probably not anybody left over, because they already bought the car because they had the money. So whether they're going to buy it from me or another dealer, these customers that are in this range, now's when they're spending the money, and they're not going to have any left over after that. So that's what we plan for, and that's why we get our cars out as quickly as possible. All right, we got another one. Did you buy relatively newer cars to your business, or is it as usual? I don't think I read that right. Did you buy relatively newer cars to your business, or is it as usual? I don't know what that means. I'm not really sure. Do I buy newer cars? Maybe is what they're asking. No, not really. We haven't bought newer cars. We're still trying to stay in that price range that we're looking for. So it's pretty much the same as usual. We might have had to pay up just a little bit more over the last few weeks, in anticipation of tax time. I know that a lot of you have been saying, well, I've seen some $5,500 cars on your lot, instead of the usual $5,000 and under. And that's true, because we expanded our range just a little bit so we could add a few more cars, to be able to sell to our customers for tax time. That means we had to pay up a little bit more on those particular cars, and we have to charge a little bit more for them. So yeah, you would have seen those range of cars when we typically don't have them, but that allowed us to buy, I would say, probably 15 to 20 more cars to have for tax time. So it was, I think it was a good pivot. We got this question right here. Is it a good time to trade in? So interestingly enough, the GM that I interviewed yesterday, he said that he's paying more for trade-ins right now because they're making so much more money on used cars, that nice used cars, than they are new cars. There's not a lot of margin in the new cars right now, because they're having to cut so much to just get people in these vehicles. So because of that, they're wanting to lean more into getting trade-ins from customers. They're actually buying more used cars from the auction because there's more margin in those. They can make more money off the used vehicles selling on their brand new lot than they can their new vehicles right now. So yeah, right now is still a good time to trade in, because auction values are higher right now than they will be for the rest of the year. So these franchise dealers know that they're seeing this at auction, and when they're paying more for the trade-ins because they know whether they're selling them at auction right now, it's going to bring a little bit more money, or if they're retailing them to a customer right now, they can get a little bit more money on it just because it's springtime, tax time, spring selling season, and that's what the GM that I just talked to. That's one thing that he really said. He wished that he could buy a lot more used vehicles, but it is still tough at the auctions because the inventory at the auctions is still low. Yes, inventory is creeping up very high on these new car dealer lots, but used car inventory is still low, and the reason why it's still low is because these new car dealers, when they get trade-ins, that's where a lot of these auction cars come from. So if the new car dealers aren't selling, they can't get trade-ins. They can't get trade-ins. There's not any cars they can send to the auction. And if there's no cars at the auction, that's cars I can't buy. So these used car dealers, they're still it's a very small pool of inventory for us to pick from. That's good at the car dealer auctions, and that's going to keep prices elevated for the foreseeable future. Even going into the summer, prices are going to come down, but there's no whoosh in inventory coming into the used car space, especially from these new car dealers. And that's what the used car market is going to have to struggle with over the next probably year or 2 years. Is we got to have inventory, and these new car dealers, unless prices come down, they're not going to supply it to us. So got to get creative. Got to find some solution for inventory. That means for us going to more auctions, expanding our range a little bit, and it's difficult. But if you haven't subscribed to this channel, this is a different channel from the main channel. So make sure you're hitting the subscribe button, and we'll do a lot more live streams just like this. I like talking directly to you guys. It's the most fun thing that I do on YouTube. So thanks for watching. Please like this video, and I hope you have a great day. In stream.